And guys, we are live. I'm just giving it some time, waiting for some folks to come in here, uh, and we'll come up with some topics to talk about. But if you guys have any questions, just let me know. Anything you want to talk about. I know that Medicus 15 is out. I am looking forward to getting my hands on it. Hopefully by January, I think. I was actually talking to somebody at JCI, well, actually on Friday, and one of the things that I know that they're doing, I think that we're going to become an alpha site to where we have a little additional support, and we have some which we get good support from some of the guys that we know anyways. There's folks out there, whenever I give them a call, they always help me, and I think that's very positive. That's a very good thing. Who do we have here? I see that we do have someone in chat. So just say hello. Let me know who you are and if you have any questions about anything. But as I was saying, um, we're going to be, I guess, going to become an alpha site to where we will be seeing a lot more, I guess you could say, some experimentation within the system within Medicus, just to see what it can do, which there's a lot that can be done with the system, as most of you guys know. And recently, one of the things that I did is I've actually added in some steam meters. We got some steam metering from our central heat plant to where we can kind of follow along what the production of steam is from that building. And that's one of the big things about with the way that we use Medicus. We're very heavily data driven. And the data shows, I mean, that tells you a lot. If you dig into the data, if you dig into the numbers, that's where you can start manipulating things for, to save money, to save energy, or just whatever you need to do. You can also track the various issues that you may have. I see we got a couple of folks out there. Who do we have? Just say hello. Just curious who we have in the chat. And if you have any questions, leave those over there too. Trying to get this conversation started. I'm always terrible. I never have do not have a set time for when we do live chat. Just when I get a chance, I come down, turn the camera on, and here we are. So that's what all of this is about. So if you got any questions regarding building automation, whatever, just leave them over in the chat, and that'll be a good conversation starter. I know that I've been hearing some stuff about some of the new upgrades, particularly with Medicus 15, and maybe some of you guys out there may know the answer to this. But the SNC, which is the replacement for the NCEs, I've heard that there have been enough complaints up through the chains that Johnson has decided to make some changes to how those are configured. For those of you guys that may not be aware, the SNC is supposed to be the direct replacement for the NCE. Basically, it is a controller and network engine within a single device. And with some of the things that they did originally, I mean, I'll just tell you, I flat out refuse to use them. And I know a lot of other folks that feel the same. It changes the configuration it basically flips it. Typically with a normal engine, if you were to override an output, you would, that's how you would do it. You would override your output. Fortunately, with the SNCs, it no longer does the override, it does an out of service. And then just with an input, it is just the opposite. With an input, it's an override. And which is, again, completely opposite of what it has been forever. Not to mention the fact that the way that you load your CCT programming is that you have to basically use SCT to load the program. Basically, you write your program, and then you have to use SCT to download that local application. And again, if you have other things that are dependent on that network engine, you could potentially knock those offline, just depending on what you're trying to do. But with all of the hassle and everything else, basically, you would just don't use them. And I've heard that they have made some changes. I don't know the full extent of that, but I am curious about it. And if any of you guys have heard anything, let us know in the comments. And again, guys, who do we have out there? Just say hello and, see who we have. But I'm just sitting here now, just kind of watching things, watching the comment section, and, just trying to get the conversation started. And like I say, guys, if you like the coffee, go down in the description below. I have got a discount code, or I've got a link to Blackout Coffee, and I might keep you awake for some of those late nights being up doing programming. But anyways, but like I say, the SNC is supposed to replace the UC, and again, we just don't use them because of the way that they've changed the configuration. Most of the time, what we have done whenever we've had to replace them is we would replace it with an SNE and a controller. You typically will have to add a controller and an expansion module, just depending on how large your system is. But it is not an overly difficult thing to do. Maybe sometime I'll do a video that has some more details about that. And there again, you can pull it right in. And you will have to do some changes, particularly if you're going to reuse your graphics to get everything to bind back in there. You've got to add a little bit of syntax in the equipment definition just to get it to work. But other than that, I mean, it works. We've got a few places it's been done, and not really too many major issues. Like I say, you got to do a few little tweaks, but it works just fine. And I know that the way that the technology is changing, I'm sure that most of you guys are aware also that with the newer versions of Metasys, you can also direct populate other devices straight to the server. You can populate a Tritium Jace straight to the server. You can populate other equipment as well. Instead of having to pull it up underneath a network engine, you can go straight to the server. Now, one thing about it, though, there is a licensing structure. As always, they're always going to try to do something to squeeze a few dollars out of you. But there is a licensing structure as well that you would have to go through and, to be able to do that. But it can give you just a big advantage. And I think that was a smart move because of the fact that already with Tritium, as most of you guys know, you pull a network engine and NAE up underneath the Tritium supervisor and pull everything in. And now Johnson's finally gotten on board, and you can do the same thing with Metasys to a Tritium Jace. So I think that's a positive thing. And, with everything that we're seeing in there, I do look forward to seeing some of the new features in 15. There are some things that I'm curious about. I've heard that you can also do live configuration of equipment definitions and equipment objects. I think that's a huge, huge thing because anytime currently that you try to do any kind of configuration of them, that you have to go and do a download and all that, basically link your server down for a bit while you're doing the download. But if you get it to where you can do literally configuration live, that's a huge plus. And I think that again, it's going to be a big time saver for a lot of folks too. And so when I do get my hands on it, I hope to make some videos about that, about doing some live configuration of those directly within the system. But anyways, I'm the only one sitting here yakking. Let's hear something from some of you guys. You guys want to talk about anything? Got any questions or just anything? There again, man, I'm just jumping on here just to see who wants to chat. Who do we have? Let me blow this up where I can view it. screen a little bit too small. Okay. From Okay, as a fellow controls tech, we thank you. Well, I appreciate it. And this is a game to where we are all always learning. Trust me. This is something, this field I'm learning myself as we go. I didn't start out in building automation. My background is in industrial automation. And, you know, got over into building automation and learned a lot. So I know it's a journey. Best way to teach proportional control to students. Are you talking about the PID loops themselves, or are you talking about like an analog output, or just give me just a little bit of detail? Because there's a couple of ways we can go with that. But if it's like a PID loop, basically with a PID loop, and it takes a little bit to get it on there. As far as a good way to teach it, that's a good question, because different people learn differently. Basically, it is a ratio over a time period. I don't know of any other way to put it, but that's basically what PID loop is: proportional interval derivative. And it's hard to, and there again, back 30 years ago in school, actually, in one of my digital electronics classes, we actually had to do calculations of PID loops and things like that manually before all this auto stuff. I couldn't do it today if I had to. I hadn't done it since then. But as far as teaching somebody what it is, I'd say that's probably the easiest thing. Is just get them to understand the fact that a PID loop it's basically a ratio over a time period. That there's going to be a rate of change over a period of time, and that's probably going to be the basics of it. And then of course how it goes from there. And let's see here, Chris. I've been watching your videos for a long time. They have been a ton of help for me. Not a programmer, more what I would call a power user of Metasys. I don't do stuff in CCT, but I do use engineering. Yeah, there in CCT, if you get to messing with it, it's a very powerful tool. You have just got to learn to use it properly. CCT is a very powerful tool. Again, Metasys within, out of the box, there's a lot of features, a lot of things that you can do there. But when you get down into the program level with CCT, then that can be fun. You get down to the nuts and bolts stuff. And here I go knocking over stuff on my desk. But yeah, CCT is a very powerful tool. And Metasys is always changing. Relationship of AIs and AOs and how the PID loop determines the output signal. I have PowerPoints, videos, but want to get a lot more detail to students. You probably teach me a few things on it, because a lot of it with a PID loop, as far as getting students to understand the PID loop and relationships, I really don't know a good way to explain it. You probably explain it better than I can, but as you are very well aware, basically, if you have an input, for example, a temperature going into a PID loop or a PID block, using it as an input, then after a period of time, you get a PID saturation and all that. And basically, I think what you might be able to do, if you can get access to some kind of a simulator, even using CCT, that might be one way to be able to help. And I'm sure that there's probably some different simulators out there. But that'd probably be the best way, because like I'll tell you one that you could probably use. If it was going to be like for a hot water system or something like that has quick change, depending on what you're doing, if you have access to CCT, especially if you had access to a control program, basically pull into that program, commission into it, put it up on the screen, and try to start going through some things, manipulate that input some, and kind of demonstrate to them how the PID loop reacts. Okay, and that's something else. And another key thing too is to bring out the polarity, because you can't have direct acting and reverse acting PID loops when you get a CCT, and that can screw you up in your programming. I found a cooling tower once that the PID loop for it was working backwards, and overheating the chill water system, condenser system. Um, let's see. Thank you for continuing to put your videos out. I'm glad they help, and I hope to get more of them. Some on the sequence of CCT as well as the selector blocks. Yeah, I need to do some more. I've done some before, and I need to do some more. It gets in a little more further detail on it, especially because it's been years since I had done any on the the selection blocks. The selection state, I've come up with a good way to try to do some videos on the state tables as well, because I think that plays into it also. Because your state tables, when you start going through and understanding how those state tables work, they can be a very powerful troubleshooting tool. So that's something that I know I need to do more of, just my free time. And but yeah, the selection blocks. And there again, I know that CCT has changed quite a bit since some of the ones that I've done previously. I mean, some of the basics are still there, but I know that there's been a lot of changes to the software since then. But I know it is something that I can do sometime. With Christmas coming up, Christmas break, and all that coming up, maybe I'll have some time to do some stuff like that. Explain how the PID value, negative, positive, can be a direct indicator of a reverse acting or direct acting PID loop. Yes, it can. And like I said before, what happened with us, we had a cooling tower. It was in a new building, and the cooling tower would not call for the fan when the condenser water was well above where it needed to be, and it just never called for the fan. And I got to digging into it, and sure enough, that's what I found. I flipped the polarity of that PID loop. No problem whatsoever. It took right off, and it swung a bit, as they all do. Get a tune in, especially that one, because it was way out of tune by that time. And let it tune in, let it run in for a bit, control fine. And but yeah, so PID loops they're a unique thing. But I will tell you one thing about a PID loop also, depending on the system. I have seen some, and we have some, when it comes to the auto tune feature of a PID loop, we actually have some systems where we turn that off. We get some decent numbers. We may let it run for a while, and then once we get it to about where we like it, we'll shut off the auto tuning. And the reason for that, and it's mostly been on cooling towers, but what we have seen, what we've had happen, is some systems, not all, some systems, what we have had happen is that loop would get so tight, and then we would get like a big weather change, temperature change outside or something like that, and that PID loop would just go nuts, and it would swing. It would not control good. And so that's why there are some systems, not all, but some that we have where we literally turn the auto tuning off on them, and they run better with the auto tuning off. I think it's gotten better with some of the newer versions of CCT, but again, it's something we have out there. Don't run the auto tune on some of them. You can also run into the same thing on Steam systems too. If any of you guys out there mess with Steam, how out of control that stuff can get quickly. Any of you guys out there deal with Steam, especially this time of year? Around here it's cold, so we have Steam running for some of our buildings, which I know that more places are moving away from central steam plants to localized boilers, but there's still a lot of that stuff out there. And steam, especially if you got a PID loop that gets a little bit swirly, man, you got a mess on your hands. Let's see here. Ran into that at a processing plant. Chill water valves needed to react a lot faster than normal to cool equipment. So PRAC had to be disabled and manually tuned. Yep. There's definitely some systems out there that auto tune will not work. And it can be a simple thing. Like I say, we turned on some for a brief period just to get some raw numbers, and then shut it off. Just depending on what you're trying to do. But anyways, oh me. So how's everything else been going out there with you guys? I know with the cooler weather, are you getting busier? Is it slowing down for you? That's a question I guess I could throw out. Especially right now for us, it's kind of a mixed bag. We got different things going on. We got a couple of new buildings coming online, or one that's come online earlier this year, and another one that we're trying to get online. All that kind of fun stuff. And I'm curious to see some of this. I know everybody hears about the old stuff that Johnson talks about if you watch their videos. I'm familiar with its predecessors. With OpenBlue, we've got a trial version that's going into one of our buildings. And I don't know. We'll see about maybe doing some videos on that. I haven't really decided yet if we can do anything on those or not, but that's a tough one. I've got my own views about it, especially because it's one of the things that most companies try to do. I guess you could say there again, companies are in business to make money. But my goodness. Okay. We have busier. I'm in Wisconsin. So, of course, this time of year, the 100% OA units have a fit in transitioning to occupied. We've got a lot of units in labs, buildings, labs. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. In fact, I had to do back a couple of years ago. We got one building when the original sequence was done. It's 100% outside our unit. When they wrote the original sequence, they had heating in 2 stages, and the preheat, which was a steam coil, the preheat was the second stage of heating for this unit. So, needless to say, this unit stayed down all the time when the weather would get cold. It just would not stay running because there again, if you're trying to maintain like a 55-degree discharge temp, which was something else I changed, or even up to 65, when you try to change that, you will not keep an air handler running when you got that super cold, 20, 30 degree air, if you're not there, you're at colder than that, coming into that box. It's not going to do it. So I ended up basically what I did was I changed the program we did, and I wrote it to where that preheat valve basically run to I guess you could say just a preheat temp set point. Problem solved that quick. The engineers do what they do, but y'all know what that is. It just would not work, and some people that something that they do will not work no matter what you do. But anyways, I ended up rewriting it, running it basically to a preheat set point. Problem solved. It'll be down at the teens. Air handlers running. Don't think nothing about it. And one of the things that we run into occasionally is on like mixed air units when they come up at unoccupied. We've had units there, which there again, when your unit's off, typically we'll have that water coil open. And when the hot water coil is open, you've got all that heat in there. So when that unit starts up, you have got all that hot air that goes downstream, hits that discharge sensor. The unit says, "Oh wow, I'm way above set point," and it throws those dampers 100% out, and boom, you're down. One of the things that I've done on a couple of units is, of course, the mixed air low limit. I've got some units that what they do is we run an offset on the discharge temp set point compared to the mixed air low limit. And what happens then is if that mixed air starts getting too cold, it closes those outside air dampers. And you want to delay that unit from opening those dampers up too quick. Because there again, it sees that 100-degree air blasting downstream. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm too hot. And boom, it slams the dampers open 100%, trips on freeze protection. Let's see here. Had to create a schedule for dampers, basically setting the dampers on startup, not staying open to 100% set point. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. Another way, like I said, is if you can run, again, all systems are a little bit different, but basically your mixed air low limit, that's another way of doing it. Again, having a delay, and this is in your CCT within your state tables, having a little bit of a delay or adding a little bit of a delay from your damper control, give it time basically before it changes states into proportional control or T control or whatever within CCT, delay that state change until after it's had a chance to blow some return air through that coil to cool it down. I mean, there's several different ways you can do it. But yeah, you've got to keep those dampers closed for getting that super cold air. There's a channel up there. The guys are from Wisconsin. I've watched how farms work. I don't know if you're anywhere near where they're at or not, but seeing that name Wisconsin, that just caught my attention. But anyway, so there's a lot of farms and big farms up in that area. But yeah, but there's a lot of ways that you can do things like that to, help make your life easier. Mixed air units can be a funny thing. We've got some that the size of those units is just amazing how big these air handlers are, and they move such a volume of air that you get inside some of those things. I've been in them, and I mean, it's just amazing how much air that they pull through. We actually had one, literally the air handler. I should say this one section of the air handler is the size of my house. I could literally set my house inside this air handler, and it ended up crushing the wall because of the fact that there was a damper that had failed, and there again it was on the return fan section of it. It crushed that whole wall. I mean, it was a disaster. We had to go back in, and they had to brace it up and all that kind of stuff, and just over an active fail and put some safeties in there, get some pressure safety, that kind of thing. That way, if you've never done it again, it was just high pressure safety instead of hopefully crushing that wall in. Yeah. So what else do we got out there? I see there's a few. Who do we have here? I cannot pronounce your name. Tech Lab is your last. I see you there. Hello. Welcome to the chat. Any questions, comments? Just throw it out there, guys. I'm trying to readjust the camera a little bit here, guys. It looks like I've got the top of my head cut off. Again, I'm just here yakking just to see who wanted to talk. If anybody wanted to talk, one of these days, again, I keep saying it, but I never do it. So I hope it's that schedule for these. And I still want to try to do some like live training or something like that. And I haven't had a chance. And there again, the times that I've tried it, I have had the security on our server would not let me do any kind of screen capture. So I don't know why, but again, I didn't really get too heavy into trying it. Well, let's see here. Who do we have? HVAC's back. Zaz, is that right? We talked about writing to default values through Niagara to the balancer override values. I found out its property ID relinquished default 3113 to write to default values inside CCT. I realized inside Metasys, you guys can just do that natively. Must be nice. Yeah. That's one thing about Metasys compared to Niagara and there again, I'm not a Niagara expert, but there are some things that I do believe that Metasys has an advantage on because it basically simplifies some of the stuff that's in Niagara. And another thing too, just to throw that out to you, I'm sure that you've probably worked with your export tables some, depending on what you're trying to do. Like if you're going to have a different system write to something that's in a JSON, make sure that in your export tables that you set those points up for writable, or at least the ones that you're going to write to. But yeah, there's always little tricks and quirks about things. It's systems. But glad you figured that one out. I mean, there's always little quirks and things. And like I say, I'm not a Niagara expert. Yes, I'm certified, which that means I don't know what that means. I've got a little experience with it, but trust me, there are some wizards out there when it comes to Niagara. But yeah, Medisys I think does simplify some things. I think the graphics, just personal opinion, the graphics are easier in Medisys, or I should say in MUI compared to Niagara. But again, I have to say, it's just my own personal bias because of the time period, the trigger time that I've had with Medisys compared to Niagara. Even though we do have some chases, some pretty chases out there, Medisys is, I've got more experience with Medisys than I do Tritium. So I just throw that out there. So anything I say about Tritium, take it with a grain of salt. I know there's a lot better people out there that people are familiar with Tritium. But I see we're up to a few more. Who do we have out there? Who hasn't said hello yet? Come on, drop a comment. Let's hear from you. Default to 3113. You're right. Default. Yeah. There's always some little quirk to it. But another thing too, and you probably already do know, I know there was a conversation I was having with a guy here the other day, and it was over an FX branded CGM, whether or not it can be, if it can be installed on a Medisys network. And the answer to that is yes, it can. For those of you guys that may not be sure, I've never heard of that before. Yes, you can install FX branded CGM onto a Medisys network. I think if there was somebody was talking about it, and the reason I know that it's done it, and it's becoming more common. I'm sure you probably see more out there. You will notice it functioning just a little bit slower for some reason compared to the Medisys branded CGM. I don't know why that is. I think it's a firmware issue, with it being the FX, but it works fine. We've got one on the system. It works fine. I mean, there's different systems out there that BACnet is BACnet. That's all I can say. That is the main thing, is keep it simple. Who else do we have out there? Anything you want to talk about? What version of Medisys are some of you guys running? Have you gotten away from SMP yet? All the Java-based stuff. I know that there's still some sites out there that are running pretty old versions. I know I was talking to one of the guys at JCI recently, and I think they got one site where I think it's like Medisys 5. It's like an old version of Medisys that they're still running. But I don't know. Companies don't want to upgrade sometimes. But it's just part of the game. Technology, there's always pressure in technology. That's just the nature of the beast. So, what else y'all want to talk about? We got a few folks out there. Any kind of struggles of anything that y'all had lately? Throw it out there, and maybe somebody in the chat here. Hell, you never know. I mean, there's always people that come in here that you just never know. I mean, some of the conversation started, man. I'm just here yakking, and I'm trying to learn something just like the rest of y'all. Majority are now at 14.1. Yeah, that's us. That is us. We're looking at going to 15. And, hear that noise in the background, ignore it. But yeah, we heard that noise in the background, just ignore it. But yes, we're going to 15 at some point. I look forward to it. But I know there were some issues. I know that y'all know when Chrome did a big update. Our web browser did a big update, and that's one of the reasons why 15.1 exists. That I'm sure you all are aware of. But yeah, there's some old sites out there, man. They're using, like I say, man, there's some sites out there like it's 5.0 or Medisys 5 still using SMP. Let's see, one of my sites use SMP. But we have one brand new one using MUI. I've been learning functionally on that. Yes. Yeah, you'll learn. There's a difference between SMP and MUI. And I remember my first exposure to Medisys was the old PMI stuff. And, that goes way back. I mean, that's pretty much a DOS-based operating system, but it had, it was powerful. It had different things. I don't remember a whole lot about it. Um, there were some features on it that I liked. I can remember like a download or something, but and there again, that's when we had a much smaller system than what we do now. And yeah, I mean, I remember the extended architecture SMP. Man, that was a wild thing that come out. That stuff falling around here. And now we're on the MUI, which really I think should have kept up with the game a long time ago and gone to some type of a web-based platform and gotten away from Java years ago. I mean, I think they really hurt themselves delaying it. Why they did, I don't know. And then I've seen guys. What was it? I think his comments was they can get my SMP when they pry it from my code. And I see one guy say once, there's some people that just are familiar with that old stuff and they don't want to change. I think eventually, I know with like SCT, you're still using, SMP to a certain extent, but I can foresee that going away in the near future also. And who knows? Who knows? I mean, medicine, with the way that technology's changing, I can foresee the time where it's basically like a single software everything system, like something similar to maybe like Tritium, I guess, Workbench. Basically, you're working on your site more or less live. Who knows? Who knows what they're going to be doing at some point. But MUI is, I like little quirks about it, but I like MUI. The graphics I like a lot better. Just wish that they would expand the library of components. And that's one thing that I don't think they've got enough of. I think it's an opportunity to what they could do is go out to some of these companies and do this. Anybody from Johnson's watching, I'm saying this on video, so if I see you guys do this, I know where you got it from. But basically, go out to some of these companies and let those companies design a graphic that you put into MUI that is used for their products. For example, if you got a certain brand chiller, whatever, which I know that there are some in MUI, same bowlers, stuff like that, let it match. You get these manufacturers out there say, hey, look, this is an opportunity for you. All we want to do is a graphic, a picture of that to be used in our system, and then that way just kind of add a little bit more overview, better view for the folks. I know there's a lot of generic graphics that we use in ours. If you're familiar with MUI, you guys know what that is. But I just think that's an opportunity that they can probably, whether or not they will or not, who knows? Where you got it from. But who else we got out there, guys? I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs, waiting to hear from somebody. I'm gonna end up going hoarse. Drink some more of my coffee. Again, check the description. Blackout Coffee. You got the link down there. It's great coffee, and it helps support what we do here. Yeah, they get a little bit of a commission off of that. Just so you guys. Anything anybody else wants to talk about? A few folks in here still hanging out. We can, any questions or whatever, we can just chat about anything and all that kind of fun stuff. Look over the mess behind me. I keep saying my area. I'm down here and put decorations stuff up. There again, I got lots of things I want to do. So we're about 40 minutes in, guys. Just wanted to give everybody a chance. Anybody got anything else? I'm hoping I have actually tried to do kind of like a online training, all of these online learning platforms. But the problem. I have not found any platform that lets me do the graphic interface the way that I want it. Because I would love to be able to do an online class where you're literally going in and electronically dragging and dropping components onto your screen as far as like uh, how to start a program, how to write a program, basic stuff. And I've looked at all kinds of different platforms. I've looked at LearnWorks, I've looked at all these online platforms, and have had zero luck at finding one that I feel would work right. Especially when I got into the graphical stuff. I mean, I got being able to do screenshots, stuff like that. Where I can put things in where somebody student will be able to go in and basically just click and drag and drop and kind of thing. But it won't let me do it the way that it needs to. So if you guys out there know a platform that would, let me know, because I think that I would like to do some kind of an online training class or something like that in that way, that where people can go through and do some real life stuff. Literally write a VAV program or hot water system program or anything like that, just to try to give people a little more experience with the software. Because you can do a lot of stuff on video. If you can get somebody to get their hands on stuff that you don't run the risk of tearing something up, I think it's a good way to get some people learning too. But I just have not found a platform that will let me do what I want to do. Anybody else got anything, guys? We still got a few folks in here. Anything else you want to chat about? Any ideas? Any upcoming projects? At some point in the future, maybe I'll get to the point to where I can actually announce these ahead of time, get on some kind of a set schedule. But until then, guys, what do we have here? I run into a lot of issues with a 9104 GGA2S actuator clicking at their base position. Any thoughts of fixing this one? Uh, Everyone that I have had do that, I've replaced. And I know you said that any other thing other than replacing it, I do not. The only other thing you can do, depending on the system, which I don't know what I assume is probably driving a valve or something. Basically, if you put like a minimum position on it to where it doesn't necessarily go all the way to that zero, that's one thing you can do. But yes, I know exactly what you're talking about on those. Every time that we ever had one start doing that, it come off, went to trash, and we replaced it because it's you inside the boxes. I don't know the specifics. I've talked about it with other guys before, some guys from JCI. Everything that I've heard was like, why they do that, I don't know. You even might find something that's a little bit different. But yeah, I completely understand. If you can, you may try putting like a minimum output voltage, like a minimum output position, of just a little bit to where it doesn't go to that full zero. That may help some, can't guarantee it, but it could cause other issues depending on what it's driving. Like I say, if it's on a hot water valve, you could potentially something. If it's on a chill water valve, cool something or whatever. So that's one possibility as well. But again, most of the time we ever have it happen in the trash. Yep, they strip those plastic ears out. That's all they do. I mean, that's why you say it's trash. Replace it. About all you can do. But yeah, I mean, if you can take it slightly off the zero position, that may help a little bit. But it's replace them. I mean, that's about the only thing. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, and why they make some of that stuff like that, there's several valve actuators out there that are just so junky. We had some, which I think we've gone through it all now. Back years ago, they were a little plastic, like a 704. I don't remember the model number. Anyways, those things were so cheap see a little reheat valve on a PAV. Those things were so cheap. They would literally just from the spring pressure inside the valve, they would literally split. And every time like you had a VAV that was overheating, I discharged, pop your head above the ceiling and look, and like 9 times out of 10, those things would be literally separated in half. And I mean, we got to the point we could swap those things in no time. We could swap buckets of those things. And I mean, some of them we went as far as to try to hold it together. We put them on there and then put a zip tie around it just to try to help hold them together. And that would help maybe for a little bit, but it would still fail. Some of the newer versions of it are a little bit better. Just junk. It's amazing that they make stuff so cheap and sell it for what they do. Nobody builds quality stuff. I think it's a big problem. But yeah, the 9104, have trouble with it, trash it. It's hate to say it, but your best bet, trash it, replace it. All part of the fun. Anybody else got anything? Any thoughts on anything? Well, guys, we're about 46 minutes in, and let's go ahead and call it here. Folks in here again. Like I said, I'm going to try to get to the point of announcing these ahead of time. I know I keep telling you guys that, but you know, part of the fun, part of the fun. We'll get there hopefully. But guys, I appreciate all you guys being in here. If you have anything else, again, go down to links, check out the affiliate links down there. Get some coffee, tools for Amazon or whatever you want from Amazon. All the links down there. It's all affiliate links. Channel and what we do here. I'll throw these videos out there, and hopefully they help you guys. And guys, we'll go ahead and jump off. If anybody doesn't have anything, I'll go ahead and jump off. I'm sure that we'll be talking to you guys in the future. And like I say, with time off coming up, and I hope to do some videos, get into some of the details and some of the suggestions that we've had, especially on some of the stuff at CCT. It's been a little bit since I've done a CCT video. Guys, thanks for watching. All the links below. Like, share the videos, my channel, all that kind of fun stuff. It really does help guys. This channel, it does not get a large number of videos, but it has good solid views. Let's just put it that way. And guys, I'm gonna go ahead and jump off here. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you all the next time.